While investigating the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German, detectives with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office and the Indiana State Police have uncovered an online profile named Anthony Schatz. This profile was being used from 2016 to 2017 on social media applications, including but not limited to Snapchat and Instagram. The fictitious Anthony Schatz profile used images of a known male model and portrayed himself as being extremely wealthy and owning numerous sports cars. The creator of the fictitious profile used this information while communicating with juvenile females to solicit nude images, obtain their address, and attempt to meet with them. Detectives are seeking information about the person who created the Anthony Schatz profile. Investigators would like any individual who communicated, met, or attempted to meet the Anthony Schatz profile to contact law enforcement.
That was a big development, a huge development in the Delphi murder case. Abby Williams and Libby German, the two young girls who were murdered brutally back in 2017. And it was all about this Anthony Schatz profile. And you saw the male model there. He's not Anthony Schatz. He was kind of used like to lure people because he's a male model, right? Let me show you the real Anthony Schatz, what he looked like. That's what Anthony Schatz really looked like. Kegan Kline is the guy's name. He was in court today. Child pornography charges. He's somehow involved in this investigation in the case. We know that another man, Richard Allen, is the one who's been arrested for the murders of Libby and Abby. But what exactly is Kegan Kline's role? What happened in court today? What impact could that have on the trial of Richard Allen? Let's bring in our regular experts in this. Two special guests join us tonight from Indianapolis, Indiana, hosts of the Murder Sheet podcast, Anya Kane and Kevin Greenlee, back with us. Thank you so much for being here. I know you guys were in court today. Kegan Kline in court. What happened today?
So today, Kegan Kline essentially pled guilty to all 25 charges against him surrounding the child sexual abuse materials, stealing another person's identity on the internet, and obstructing justice.
So he pleads guilty. Was this part of some sort of a deal? Like he gets, all right, you plead guilty, you're going to get maybe a reduced sentence, not going to do as much time in exchange for some information. Did something like that happen? Is this guy going to be a potential witness in the case against Richard Allen for the Delphi murders?
Actually, the prosecutor in charge of the case made it crystal clear that there was no deal. She took charge of the case in January, and she said the day after I took charge of the case, I went to Kegan Kline's defense attorney and said, there is no deal available to you in this case. There's no deal on the table, and there is no deal that is going to be offered. Either go to trial or plead guilty. And as we know now, Kegan ultimately decided to plead guilty.
So there is, well, he doesn't get a deal by pleading guilty. He can argue that he accepted responsibility for his actions, so he can try to get something, some reduction or not the maximum. But okay, so at this point, has anyone acknowledged any connection between him and Abby and Libby?
At this point, the only thing truly linking them is the fact that he's copping to being the person behind the Anthony Schatz account. And in the transcripts that we released last year, it indicated that police believed that Anthony Schatz was in touch with Libby before her murders. So that's sort of the link. And I think a lot of people were hoping that a trial could maybe illuminate that some more or say, okay, is this a real connection or can we rule this out? But now that there's no trial, it sort of seems like we'll be kind of left guessing to a certain extent.
So is there any connection between him and Richard Allen? Did they know each other? Did they communicate online? Was there any mention of Abby and Libby and the Delphi murder case in court today or in any of the documents associated with Kegan Kline?
There was no mention of the Delphi case whatsoever in court today. It was entirely focused on these 25 charges related to child sexual abuse materials, obstruction of justice, and so on. The Delphi murders were not mentioned at all.
And what is the status of the Delphi murder case at this point against Richard Allen?
At this time, the next hearing is going to be in June, and that will be essentially around Alan's bond. And so it will be a chance for the prosecution to perhaps put on more evidence indicating that he should remain in custody essentially until the trial.
All right. Great information. Not what I was hoping for. I was hoping to learn a little bit more about maybe some connection between the two, and he's going to be a witness, but it's not happening. Murder Sheet podcast, folks. Download it tonight. Anya Kane, Kevin Greenlee, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
All right, let's bring back in our think tank, Eklund Mercy, Kirk Nurmi, Nima Romani with us. Kirk, I'm looking at this case with this Kegan Kline. What are the odds, okay? What are the odds that a guy who's into child porn is communicating with a teenage girl the day that she is murdered by somebody else? And they're both from the same town, Delphi, Indiana. This little tiny, I don't understand. There's got to be some connection here.
Yeah, ultimately, Vinny, there is. You remember when the first bit of this case, they talked about all the different tentacles of this case, and I think exactly, sadly, I figured we were going to see exactly what we're going to be seeing. I don't think this Anthony Shots profile was the sole domain of Mr. Kline. I think there's probably a lot of individuals involved. These people tend to work in communities, work in cohesion together, and I believe what we're seeing now is the first domino to fall. So I think Mr. Kline ultimately could be a witness because people of this nature tend to be pretty passive. I think he will turn state's evidence on whomever is left because he's lived a normal life. He's scared of going to prison. So without a deal, but any protections he can get that makes him feel safer, he will take in exchange to take everybody down with him. And I believe that's what we're beginning to see in this investigation.
You know, Neiman, the child porn cases, there usually is very little defense, right? It's on his computer. You look at the pictures. You don't want to look at them, but you look at them, you know what it is. And, you know, there's no defense.
Oh, yeah, they're indefensible, Vinny. I mean, they're among the worst crimes that one can commit. So I like what the state did here. You get his guilty plea, right? No deal, 25 counts, is probably going to do close to 30 years. And then, look, if he wants to cooperate, you can always cooperate him later. But what you want to do is wait till after Alan's trial, right? Because otherwise, he's going to get beat up on cross-examination. You're a rat. You're a snitch. You're just making things up to save yourself. So this is the right way to handle a child pornographer like Kline, but also potentially use them in the murder case.
Now, Eklund, I always try to look ahead, like what is the defense going to do? And I think of that not because I'm cheering for him or something. I just, like, you want to anticipate where they're going to potentially go here. I think where they could potentially go is, okay, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my guy, you know, no record, nothing. You know, he works at CVS for years. This guy, child porn, is communicating with one of the victims shortly before she dies, and guess what? He lives like a mile down the road. Like, it looks like the obvious place that they're gonna point the finger at this guy, Kegan Kline.
Yeah, and it's going to be really hard. Now, if you understand, like, human trafficking and like the sex trafficking rings and just the different tentacles. So you have people who are more voyeuristic, so they'll be participating in child porn. In order for there to be a supply, there has to be a demand. What they're supplying in child pornography is the abuse of children, is the sexual abuse of children. So the fact that you have Kline who has access to those documents, it would not shock me if he were to have footage of the children either being abused or either being murdered. I think that's the connection. I think that we have different types of predators. You have the voyeuristic ones who have their own issues, but we also have the ones who actually commit the crimes. A lot of times we compartmentalize it, but it actually all works together. And, you know, if you hit that first domino, like, you know, my colleague just said, it will start to fall, but it's going to be slow but sure.
Kirk, should I be shocked that in a really small community like this, that there could even be like two guys living within a couple miles of each other that are this, like, if in fact Richard Allen is the murderer And it was it was more than a murder. They haven't revealed all the details, but it was bad. That two guys like this could live in the same small town and not know each other?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it does in some ways seem hard to believe, but it's perfectly plausible, Vinny, because these people, again, they're connected, socialized together. I think I would build on what Ethlyn said and dispute a little bit about your theory, because I think we're going to see a lot of digital footprint that ties these two men together and others together, others in the state, others across the country, and others globally. Sadly, that's the way this thing works because of the power of our technology now. So it doesn't surprise me that the tentacles will both be wide and narrow, because this kind of thing, this is the way it goes. Birds of a feather flock together, and it doesn't surprise me at all that if these two are connected, and they've really communicated a lot about what happened here in Delphi to these poor, unfortunate girls.
Yeah, and I know we live in a digital world and all pictures are on our phones, on our computers, but there's still something about Richard Allen, the accused killer, working at CVS, developing photos. I think there's something there. Call me crazy.